Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. When we start to learn something new, our first concern is naturally with what we are learning. But have you stopped to consider how you learn? How will you approach your new subject? Do you know how effective that approach will be? Have you considered other methods? Educational research has shown that by becoming more aware of how you learn, you can become a more efficient and effective learner. There is no one single method of learning. There are many. And what works best depends on the task, the context, and your personality. You'll be a more effective learner if you are aware of the range of possible learning methods and know when to apply them and what works best for you. Peter Honey and Honey Mumford identify 4 distinct styles or preferences that people use while learning. They suggest that most of us tend to follow only 1 or 2 of these learning styles, and that different learning activities may be better suited to particular styles. Knowing your predominant learning style will help you judge how likely an activity is to be helpful to you. Honey and Mumford have produced a questionnaire that can identify your preference learning styles, and you can see the link below in the description to download that. Honey and Mumford have produced a questionnaire that can identify your preferred learning styles. But once you've watched this video, you may be able to decide yourself what kind of learning style you recognize yourself to be within. So the first learning style is known as the activists. Activists are people who learn by doing. They like to involve themselves in new experiences and will try anything once. They tend to act fast and consider the consequences afterwards. Activists learn best when involved in new experiences, problems and opportunities. They love to be thrown in the deep end. They love to be working with others in problem solving, games, role-playing exercises, and are able to lead a group. Activists tend to learn least when listening to lectures or reading long explanations, reading, writing, and thinking on their own. Reflectors, on the other hand, learn by observing and thinking about what happened. They like to consider all the possible angles and implications before coming to a considered opinion. They spend time listening and observing and tend to be cautious and thoughtful. Reflectors tend to learn best when they are able to stand back and observe first, given time to think and investigate before commenting or acting, given an opportunity to review what has happened, doing tasks without tight deadlines. Reflectors tend to learn least when forced to take a lead in a group, doing things without preparation and rushed by deadlines. The other learning style are those who are theorists. Theorists like to understand the theory behind the actions. They need to model concepts and facts in order to learn. They like to analyze and synthesize and feel uncomfortable with subjective judgments. Theorists tend to learn best when an activity is backed up by ideas and concepts that form a model, system or theory, usually in a structured situation with clear purpose. They have the chance to ask questions and probe. They like to be able to understand a complex situation. Theorists tend to learn least in situations that emphasize emotions and feelings, when activities are unstructured or ambiguous, when asked to act without knowing the principles or concepts involved. The fourth group are known to be pragmatists. Pragmatists are keen on trying things out. They look for new ideas that can be applied to the problem in hand. They like to get on with things and tend to be impatient with open-ended discussions. They are practical, down-to-earth people. Pragmatists tend to learn best when there's an obvious link between the topic and a current need. They are shown techniques with clear practical advantages. They can try things out with feedback from an expert. They can copy an example or emulate a role model. Pragmatists tend to learn least when there's no immediate practical benefit, there are no clear guidelines on how to do it, or it appears to be all theory. Matching activities to learning styles. So how can people use these 4 models to improve their learning technique? People show a preference for particular learning styles, and different learning activities are suited to different styles of learning. You are most likely to learn when your learning style and the nature of the activity match. So if you can choose among activities to learn the same subject, you may be able to choose an activity to match your preferred style. But often, you aren't given the luxury of a choice, so you'll need to use a style that may not come naturally. If you are prepared to use different styles on occasion, so that you strengthen styles that you currently don't use often, you can become an all-rounded learner, able to benefit from any learning opportunity. The Kolb learning cycle is a slightly different perspective on learning, also points upon the importance of using a variety of learning styles. Kolb and other educational psychologists suggest that effective learning proceeds around a cycle. To learn effectively, you need to keep moving around this cycle. So you need to experience, so you need to do something, you need to review, think about what has happened, you need to conclude, draw some conclusions, and plan deciding what to do in the future. Completing each stage is important, not just for itself, but because it improves learning at the next stage. Honey and Mumford point out that there's an association between the learning cycle and learning styles. So if you have a strong preference for the activist learning style, for example, you may be providing plenty of new experiences, but failing to reflect and conclude from them. To become a more effective learner, you should engage with each stage of the cycle, and that can mean using activities and styles that you may not normally choose. Well, I hope you find this video useful and improves your learning style and ability to revise. Please kindly like and subscribe to the